What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So tonight we got a huge episode with Jack Smith, a collab, and our second phone call on this on the podcast. Jack Smith from Cold Hard Truth. He's got a lot of great stuff going on, and we're going to talk to him and break down some of the top NFL draft prospects for the 2021 NFL draft. So he'll just be calling in a minute, and it's going to be it should be a great show, great discussion. He released a video of Patrick Surtain and Caleb Farley. If you haven't seen that, go check out his stuff. He's really on the rise. He does it with two other buddies. I got to explain his channel. I'll let him, break down his channel a little more. But so he'll talk a little bit more about that, and I'll have him introduce himself and kind of give a synopsis about what his channel's all about. But we're just kind of waiting here. Touch on some other news and notes today. The Cardinals signed J.J. Watt, which is really big for this is a Cardinals defense that just keeps trying to improve and get better. Hopefully they'll see a little more out of Isaiah Simmons this year, and wish J.J. Watt a healthy season. A guy that's really battled with injuries throughout his career, especially the last few years. But when he's been healthy, he's double-digit sack guys. Some years with over 20 sacks. So wish him the best of luck in Arizona. So yeah, it'll be fun there. And Jack is calling in right now. Hey Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. How's it going, man?
Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, man. So I just ran into your channel a few days ago, and I saw the Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley breakdown. So it looks like you and looks like a couple other guys have been doing a lot of great stuff. So just tell the listeners what you guys are all about with Cold Hard Truth, and whatever you want to tell about the channel.
Yeah. So we actually started last year during our junior year of high school. We just realized, we talk football too much not to do something with it, and so we just kind of decided to sit down and start a podcast, and eventually it morphed into a YouTube channel, and then we've started to branch out and do specific videos on our YouTube, and then we have a podcast on the side. So it kind of just became a lot bigger than we really ever thought. In reality, all we wanted to do was talk football, but now obviously I have the YouTube channel and got the podcast, like to talk everything football, including NFL and college football. But that's who we are, and we're just going to continue to do that. But thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem, man. So, speaking of the top two corners, Farley and Patrick Surtain. Caleb Farley, I was so disappointed we didn't get to see him this year because he's such elite athleticism, just incredible ball skills, and just made such good plays in the ball. That Miami game is just he was just kind of just locking guys down, like sticking to them like glue, and then that one interception he made in the end zone was incredible. So Jack, about Farley, what do you think if he's going to succeed? What one trait or two traits that are going to make Farley succeed at the next level?
Well, I think you look at him and you can't deny the athleticism that's there, but that's not what I think is going to make him succeed, because if he's going to succeed, I think it will be because he has improved technically. I think that he's obviously going to have the athleticism with him the entire time. It's something that he won't lose. It's there and everyone knows about it. But the thing that needs to happen is he needs to improve slightly a little bit more technically. I think he can improve in off man. I think he can become a little bit more instinctive of route combinations. And then when he's playing in press man, just have a little bit more technique. When I did this Surtain versus Farley video, I just noticed that Surtain was just a little bit more gifted technically. I thought he was a little bit more smooth just when asked to guard a receiver one-on-one. So I think that the trait that you will obviously look at is his athleticism. But in my opinion, that's there and that will be there. And so if he's going to become that elite level corner, an all-pro level corner, it will be because he has improved technically.
Yeah, and I agree, and a lot of draft prospects are very raw coming in, and there's always stuff guys can work on, and so I want to flip to Surtain. I watched Surtain. He's so fundamentally sound. I'd say he's one of the more finished products in this draft, and has won against some pretty darn good receivers. I mean, C.D. Lamb, his freshman year, that was a heck of a matchup. C.D. Lamb kind of got the better of him. Kyle Pitts, Seth Williams. So I just want to ask you, Jack. I always say this. I think Saban. It's hard to grade Saban's players sometimes because he's such a good job of coaching and getting the most out of these guys and maxing them out. So I think Surtain has a high floor and can be a solid starter. But do you worry that his his ceiling might be limited in the NFL because guys have been maxed out, like Dre Kirkpatrick's a guy that comes to mind, D Milner. Do you worry about that he might be maxed out and could be just have a high floor, a solid starter, but not become like the elite corner like his former teammate Marlon Humphrey?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a worry that you go with because he's not going to improve athletically, really. I mean, he's not going to get any faster. And with all the coaching that goes on at Alabama, people are saying he's not going to get any better as a football player because he's been taught really everything he needs to know by Saban and the rest of those Bama coaches. But also on the flip side of that coin, there are a ton of Alabama DBs that have gotten better and have just dominated the NFL for the last couple of years. So I think that there's a way that he can still get better, but also, what I saw on film was good enough to be a number one corner on most NFL teams. I think that just using him correctly, in reality, he'll probably need safety help sometimes if he goes against the fastest receivers in the league. Like if he's asked to match up with Tyreek Hill, that could be an issue on some plays. I think that his fundamentals and his ability to press are good enough where he's not going to be burnt often. A lot of people in the comment section of that video were saying that, he's going to get burnt all the time. But, I mean, there's ways to prevent that by having good technique and being up in press. But eventually, a couple times he will get burned because he just can't improve athletically. That's something that, I mean, really you can't ask anyone to get that much faster, especially at this age in their life. So, yes, it is a concern, but I think there's flip sides to every coin. And I also think that he's able to, prevent some of that.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with this. What 40 time do you think would you want to see in the pro day at Alabama?
It's so tough because I don't even know if I'm going to trust those pro day 40s because if it's not at the combine, I guess you can put a little bit of stock into those numbers, but you kind of take them with a grain of salt. I have no idea what to expect just because we haven't had a real time from him yet, and I don't think we'll even have a real time for him now. The numbers, I don't trust them at the pro days, really.
Yeah, that's one thing why I was so disappointed about them not having a combine this year because it seemed like that 40 time they had, with the whatever that machine they have is just so accurate and such a a good gauge, and it seemed like the Lions. My team, if Quentin Cephas was a guy, he ran like a 4.7 at the combine, cleared it up at the pro day, but I don't know what that really means. Some of these times are a lot different.
I mean, you're not going to get. It's not even if you have a bad 40, like it's not going to be that much off. Like you're going to be around the same range, and sometimes you're going to have really great scores. But I feel like these colleges at their pro days, there's definitely a little bit of something they can do to bump those times up just a little bit.
Yeah. So next I want to move, that edge rusher. Edge rusher has been so tough for me because I don't think there's that one it guy. There's obviously not a the Chase Young, the Nick Bosa in this draft, the Joey Bosa.
Definitely.
But I think Gregory Rousseau, Kwity Paye, and Jalen Phillips, guys that stand out to me. Kwity Paye, a guy I watch more, being from Michigan, being a Michigan fan, and Jalen Phillips, I think, is maybe the best pass rusher. Gregory Rousseau, I guess I'll just start with, asking you what your take on Gregory Rousseau is because I don't know. The production was there, but he doesn't wow me on tape sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Rousseau's the only one of these guys that I've done a specific video on. And I was really conflicted because normally I'm a kind of film first guy who doesn't like to look at statistics too much, but then you see his statistics and you're drawn in a little bit. And he has so much potential, but I guess he's a lot like Farley, where he has all the athletic skills in the world. He just needs to improve a little bit. And I feel like sometimes he's a little bit too tall. He needs to get down a little lower. Obviously, being at his height, that's tough. But He obviously needs to, get down a little lower. I also think he just doesn't have that much of a burst off of the edge, which is why I think he might profile better a little bit inside. Obviously, you saw a lot of his production come from the inside.
Right.
So I think that he has all the tools in the world, and the production was there. It's just you question whether he can keep that up, and not being able to see him this year. I'm kind of talking myself into it. It's very eerily similar to what we've been talking about with Farley. But kind of on the flip side of that coin, to move over to Kwity Paye, actually, he's kind of the opposite. Like, his film is great. I mean, he shows everything you want to see, but he just hasn't produced. Like, I mean, realistically, he does not have close to the production that Rousseau had, and he's still lacking behind Jalen Phillips. And yes, he gets a lot of pressure, but at the same time, at the NFL, you have to convert that, and it becomes even harder to convert them into sacks at the NFL level. So that's kind of what scares me a little bit with Kwity Paye.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. It's actually what I was gonna add if you didn't mention. It's weird because you got guys that are productive, but they give you they worry you on tape, and then there's guys that are disruptive but don't have the numbers to match it. Jason Owe from Penn State's a guy. Is that how you say his last name? Owe?
I think, yeah, Owe. Yeah, I think, or like something like that.
Right. He reminds me of Kwity Paye. He was disruptive. Even Asai from Texas, a guy that was, Asai had the tackles for loss, but he didn't really have the sack production. There's guys that have the disruption, but not the production, and then there's guys that have the production, but not necessarily, wowing you on tape. But that's what, yeah. So.
And I think a guy like Paye he'd work out in certain defenses. Like, sure, if the Niners take him, he will get more sacks just because that defensive line. You also have to focus on Kinlaw, Armstead, and Bosa.
Right.
But I mean, if he's put on a team where he's asked to be the premier pass rusher and he gets all the attention, I mean, he's just not going to convert, I don't think. And so it scares you a little bit. And so I think that, like, certain teams should have Paye kind of at the top of their board, and other teams, hopefully, they think that they can, ignite something in Rousseau and teach him something. He's definitely a player that, with good NFL coaching, can become absolutely amazing in the league.
Yeah, I agree. And Jalen Phillips was interesting to me because I forgot how highly, recruited he was when he transferred from UCLA, and whatever. I don't know. I didn't follow what happened at UCLA, but yeah, he's a guy that just keeps growing on me the more I watch, and he needs to get better against the run. But yeah, there's some, there's a few games that he wowed me this year. Wasn't necessarily every game consistently, but yeah, there's a few, the Duke game and some games it's like, man, this guy maybe he could be elite rusher, and then you see him some games against the run, he's kind of iffy, but yeah, I didn't know.
So yeah, living out here in California, I've grown up as a USC fan. So hearing that they were getting a 5-star recruit in Jalen Phillips, it kind of sucked. But then just randomly, not playing, everyone's wondering where he's at, and then he just ends up leaving the team or maybe transferring away. But it's just, he got so many concussions over there and dealt with so many injuries that, I really just thought he was going to be done with football. And then he ends up, becoming this great pass rusher at Miami, and it was kind of came out of the blue because I hadn't heard about him in forever. But he's easily, I think, the most talented edge rusher in this class. And yeah, sometimes he struggles against the run, and I'm not sure he's as quick as Kwity Paye, and I think he's like Rousseau in that aspect, that he doesn't have the greatest burst, but he's very well rounded, and I think the word I would use is disruptor. I think that, like, he disrupts so many plays. So yeah, he might get beat sometimes and not feel where he needs to be and run support, but also he disrupts so many plays, and he has so many big plays on tape, and that's kind of like, I think, his calling card, his talent, and obviously the fact that he can disrupt so many plays.
Yeah, I agree. And so I want to shift to quarterbacks, and I saw your buddy on your channel did a Zach Wilson versus Fields. Was that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, Jack, I just want to get your take. Compare Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, and maybe what you like, dislike, and then which guy you like more.
Yeah, so I've done scouting reports, like full videos on all of the top. Well, actually, we have a channel done really them on all of them. I didn't do the Trask or Mac Jones one, but I've still been able to watch them and kind of gain some of that. But Zach Wilson and Justin Fields were probably the two polarizing ones for me because I'm a Jets fan, and so they're probably going to go with one of them at number 2. And I kind of wanted to just figure out which one it was going to be and who I would take myself. And for me, it was Zach Wilson when it all came down to it, but I don't think there's a wrong choice. I think that Zach Wilson he's a safer pick. That's kind of like, how I ended up. I thought he was a safer pick than Justin Fields, but he had a lower ceiling than Fields, obviously. But just when I was watching Fields, he was the first scouting report I had done for this draft class. It was just looking at him, and I think that he needs to fix some of his processing things. He plays hero ball a little bit too much, and it looked like a little bit like Carson Wentz this season, which kind of scared me away. He doesn't know when to throw it away. He takes way too many unnecessary sacks. And then some of his throws, it honestly, as a Jets fan, also looked like Sam Darnold a little bit when he has those kind of boneheaded plays. But it's probably a little bit nitpicking because only from a couple of games, and then seeing him come out and ball out against Clemson kind of calmed me down a little bit. But obviously there's those fears are still there, and I think that with good coaching in the NFL and with a little bit of time, he'll be able to fix those, and I'm confident that he will be able to get over those flaws. But just with Wilson, I saw a little bit more safety. I think that he has a great arm. He's able to process defenses really well. He knows where to go with the football, and he has all the talent in the world to get it there. A big arm. Obviously, he has some running ability too. But he does have a little bit of fear with injuries, and it's just they both have their flaws, and honestly, they both could easily go at number 2, and I'd be perfectly happy with it. But in the end, I actually did go with Wilson. I think he's just a little bit better and a little bit safer. And as a Jets fan right now, I think safety is kind of where you want to go because they haven't had a franchise quarterback in so long. So getting the safer option for those two guys is just kind of where I was leaning.
Yeah, and I was a fan of Justin Fields, and Mel Kiper kind of made the point that I was thinking is comparing him to Justin Herbert. I think Fields and Herbert were such exceptional. I look at the physical tools and the arm strength, and I think they will clean up the mistakes just because they're so talented in the NFL. There's guys like Johnny Manziel, and they were kind of had reached Tebow reached their ceiling in college, and their arm strength and some of their their what am I trying to say here? Their arm strength and some of their physical tools couldn't really carry over to the next level. I think Fields with good coaching could clean that up and have become like a Justin Herbert, similar, the size, tools, and speed. But they struggled with anticipatory throws, and I think Fields could clean that up. And he can't hold on to the ball too long. Yeah, the Northwestern game sticks out to me. So
I think that. And there is definitely an obvious comparison to Herbert because they obviously had everything in place other than their decision making. And when you can like focus in on one thing when you get to the NFL and you get that coaching where they can coach you in that one thing, then I think you can do that. I mean, Sam Darnold, who I'm a big fan of, watched at USC for a while. He had that problem with the making decisions and kind of making boneheaded plays, but he also had his footwork to deal with. And then he went to a team that wasn't great, so he had to focus on that. Like that, there's just too many things to improve on at the same time. But when Herbert got to the NFL, he was on a good team. He didn't really have anything else to kind of focus and improve on other than that decision making and knowing where to go with the football. And focusing on that one thing, it made it much easier for him to reach his full potential. And I think that's definitely what you can see with Fields too.
Yeah, and so I want to touch. Last thing I want to touch on, the latest mock drafts. Kiper has Lance and Mac Jones going in the first round. What do you think about Trey Lance and Mac Jones? Just if you want to touch on those guys.
Yeah, so Trey Lance, I'm very skeptical on. When I watched him, I'm not saying he's bad. He's definitely not bad. I think he's very talented and he has all the potential in the world. But I think it will definitely take the right team. I think. I was talking about this with Anish the other day, my co-host. You look at Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson, if he was drafted by some other teams ahead of the Ravens or even behind, and then they tried to make him a quarterback and make him their quarterback, I don't think it'll work out. But right. I think that because the Ravens dedicated so much time and energy into building an offense around Lamar Jackson, he was able to work out because they obviously primarily focused on him. And I think that's what it'll take for Lance. So I was saying, a team that's going to ask Lance to come in and run their offense, I don't think it'll work. But a team that, brings him in, maybe even sits him for a year and builds an offense around him, then he can be great. But I just don't think that what I saw because of that is I just don't think he's able to, know where to go with the football in like anticipatory throws like we talked about. Because he plays at NDSU, the first receiver there is almost always wide open. And I said conditioned a lot in that video when I made it, but he was conditioned to make those easy reads. And once he in the game that we saw this year, when he was asked to look towards those second and third reads, it was a bad game, and it kind of tanked his draft stock a little bit. But I think that a coach, if he gets the right coach pairing and the right team, then he can be great. And with Mac Jones, I think he's a little bit more team versatile, but I just don't see the upside there that I do with really any of the quarterbacks above him. Even with Kyle Trask, I feel like Kyle Trask even has more upside than Mac Jones. But I think that just what we saw from him, the production, and he doesn't have the greatest arm. He doesn't have, the best read ability, but he gets the job done. And I don't know. I just feel like I see more kind of like Kirk Cousins, or like I just see someone who's just going to be there at quarterback for your team. I don't really see a game changer in Mac Jones, but I kind of agree with the mock drafts. I think they are going to be overdrafted. Like I could very easily see all of the quarterbacks except for Kyle Trask go in the top 20 to 15 picks. I really see it. Just because quarterback's the most important position, there are many teams that need him, and they're going to be overdrafted, and it's continuously increasing. So that's what I see. I definitely don't think that Mac Jones is a top 20 or top 15 talent in the draft, and depending on the team, I'm not sure that I would want Trey Lance to go in that range. But I think that it will happen. Just don't believe that it should.
Yeah, and the thing I said about Mac Jones, he's just he had such a clean pocket all year round. I mean, there's never really a game he was under duress. I mean, but yeah. So yeah, thanks so much, Jack, for joining. Really appreciate it. Great stuff.
Yeah, of course. It is a great show you got going. Very professional, and I really enjoy it, and I can't wait to listen to it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a nice night.
Yep, you too. Take care, man.
Bye. Yeah, you too.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap with that. Great stuff from Jack Smith from Cold Hard Truth. Make sure you go and like this video, and go to his channel, like and subscribe his videos, watch his breakdowns. Awesome stuff. I don't promote a lot of channels on this on my show. Brett Coleman and Jack Smith from Cold Hard Truth, two guys I've been watching a lot lately. So make sure you go check out Jack's stuff, because he's just doing a tremendous job. Him and his buddies. Go watch the Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley breakdown is outstanding, along with other videos. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Stay tuned for more.